Hey, what's up everybody? This is Justin here to make my next review, and that will be Garo Gaiden Tougen no Fue, meaning the Tougen Flute. So yes, during Koga's journey to the Promised Land during the events of Sokoku no Maryu, the two Makai priestesses, Jabi and Rekka, have formed a master-apprentice kind of relationship. However, their partnership and trust is put to the test by the coming of Magi and Agi, two lovers and Makai priestess traders who seek the Tougen Flute in order to revive a horror named Higari, and whose power can either kill horrors or let them loose. But in order to do that, Magi and Agi hatch a scheme to make Jabi and Rekka as enemies. Well, the unique thing about this special edition of Garo is that it's heavily female-centric, and it shows that the female cast in some way can carry a movie in relation to the franchise. Jabi and Rekka do have this chemistry that works excellently well on screen that can either be friendly or super tense. Granted that Makai priests lack the strength to defeat horrors in comparison to Makai knights, it does highlight their abilities after everything that has happened throughout the franchise, and that they can still be useful in their own ways. A major problem is that the villains Magi and Agi are highly underdeveloped, and it's really sad because they come across as pretty clever villains. I also love the way Magi smiles. It is cute and disturbing at the same time. Also, like Rekka, she does use male speech patterns, and I wish they kind of went into more detail on why she kind of speaks that way, if you understand Japanese and you understand the way she speaks. With Rekka, you do learn what, when she is introduced in Red Requiem, that it's the fact that she hates being a woman. Yeah, Magi and Agi are lesbians, but I also feel that isn't really enough sufficient information explains that particular mannerism of her. I mean, she still acts like a cute girl, and am I to assume she speaks that way? Does she act that way to be cute or what? But that's just a linguistical issue for those who understand Japanese. And for the most part, you know what their motivations and their relationship is, and but it's not really given like 100% detail. I mean, considering how excellent their skills are, it makes me wonder if they were they at all within the elite of the Makai Order or something like that. Did they betray anybody else? Plus, I felt there was something of an age difference between the two characters, and I felt that they could have been apprentice and pupil, but it doesn't exactly say that. Agi seems like she's in her late 20s to early 30s, while Maki feels like she's like in her mid-teens. And as for Magi, I mean, until now, a lot of Makai priestesses have succumbed to some form of illness during their youth, such as Koga's mother and Badago's mother. I mean, is there some sort of disease that affect a certain line of Makai priestesses or something? Or is the base details of their motivation supposed to be a way to make them more sympathetic? But I hope in the future they find some way to explore these characters because I thought they had a lot more potential than what this particular movie gives them. Jabi, like Koga in the series, really needs no further development, but I am glad she's given the mentor role to Rekka. Rekka naturally ends up being the character that gets the most development, and it also resolves a certain portion of her story that starts in Red Requiem, which I thought was a nice touch to her character. I thought previous exposure to the series will certainly help, but specifically with Red Requiem, so you get an idea with Rekka and why she acts the way she does. Exposure to the first season or second season, in my opinion, isn't really all that necessary, but unfortunately, it doesn't exactly ground new viewers to how the Makai Order works in the way that both of the TV series prior to this and Red Requiem does. The only male character who gets any significant presence is Rekka's friend Shiguto. Granted, he's mostly something minimal to comical relief, but he does have his moment in this movie which shows that he has more potential than he does and viewers realize. And for that, I give the story and characters a 7.75 out of 10. Considering the backgrounds of the actresses, and especially with Matsuyama Mary in ballet and rhythmic gymnastics, the presentation of the action, especially if you saw them in their previous appearances, notably demonstrate that. However, Jabi demonstrates more of an authentic martial arts feel with her fighting style, and is more composed, while Rekka is still appropriately hot-headed in her fighting despite her grace. So, like I have said in any Garo-related review, the action will feel a lot like wuxia films, and if you're into that, it really works well, and I think the Japanese are just as good as doing as the Chinese. And because it is a more female-oriented movie, the style is more speed and grace, is more opposed to, let's say, brutal power and some sort of technical martial arts skill that requires power and leverage, like something that the male anatomy can appropriately do. Since the priest can't summon armor, of course, I felt the fights did have more of a sense of danger to it than usual. And for that, I give the action a perfect 10 out of 10. The background music mostly recycles what was used in the series, and the respective things of Jabi and Rekka are used, and I felt they still work great. It uses a great sense of traditional percussions and acoustics, traditional of course I mean in context to Japanese culture, and it amps it up with some very excellent rock. The theme songs are once again done by Kageyama Hironobu, and his name and presence to the Garo franchise is why I will always give the music a 10 out of 10. Overall, maybe it's just me, but the main issue I had with this movie that it lacked the horror qualities that other parts of the franchise has. Like in previous installments, I did have a sense of fear you would watch, like I was watching Ringu or Ju-on, but this movie doesn't really deliver on the horror aspect. Not the monsters, but the genre and the atmosphere. The appeal to Garo to me is that it perfectly mixes being something of a Japanese horror film and a super tokusatsu show at the same time. Maybe that's overstating it, but I don't think it overall negates the movie. But ultimately, I liked how it shows that the Makai Knights don't have to get all the glory, and I think Jabi and Rekka compose themselves as co-leads excellently well. Once again, I also had an issue with the villains being underdeveloped, as well as what I thought on a foundational sense, but they were good villains in that context. But in the end, we still have excellent action, awesome music, the typical good triumphs over evil story, and Rekka finally gets some of the character development I think she was kind of long overdue, and which is why I give this movie, Tougen no Fue, an overall score of an 8.9 out of 10. And thank you for watching, and look forward to my next episode of Great Teacher JMo, and my next review, which will of course naturally be Garo Yami o Terasumono. So yes, thank you for watching, and look forward to my upcoming videos.